Thank you very much indeed, Jonathan, and all the panellists for that last discussion and panel group. Very interesting. I think sort of focusing on the various routes that are available for us to provide energy and provide energy access in Africa, the potential and also the challenges. Our next speaker, this is a solo speaker spot, is Omoboriowo. And he'll be talking to us about accelerating energy access in sub-Saharan Africa, and also championing the Sustainable Development Goal 7, which is around providing affordable energy, affordable and clean energy. By way of an introduction, Akin is described as a strategic and innovative thinker with broad-based expertise in infrastructure project development, business management, financial economics, and strategic leadership in the gas and power sectors. He's got over 20 years' experience within this energy sector and has basically led various executive teams in the structuring, financing and implementing of several innovative and commercially sound projects. He's an expert advisor at the Oxford University Syed Business School and continues to serve as an advisory board member for various institutions, including the Global Thinkers Forum, and African Energy Chamber in South Africa, and previously on the Shell Foundation UK, where they were tasked with advising on the creation of the energy company of the future. I'd like to welcome Akin to the stage. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. I hope I can follow on nicely to Jonathan's question around who's positive about energy access and off-grid solution as potential panacea to the problem that we have around energy access to majority of Africans. As we all know, the two problems that we have on the continent, we have the access problem for a couple of hundreds of millions that don't have access whatsoever to modern form of electricity. And then we have the availability problem for those that are connected to some form of grid or the other, but frankly, don't get enough of electricity around the clock. So today, it's more of a, I'm going to ask a few questions, share some thoughts, and pick our interest in what I know that all of us in the room already familiar with. So, what is the path towards the sustainable development, accelerating energy access to everyone on the continent? How do we democratize electrons and make it available, especially to the underserved? So, why does it matter? Why does energy access matter? If you go anywhere in London today, you put on the switch in the toilet, anywhere you are, it's automatic that electrons will come on. So it doesn't matter much here. But in my village in Ekiti, Nigeria, when you press that switch and the room lights up, there's an excitement. Sometimes people want to throw a party because there's hardly ever electricity. So why does it matter? What are the strategies that we can put in place to accelerate energy access? Why does standard of living matter to everyone? What policies and reforms government and private sector can put in place to better enable access to electricity? The previous panels have spoken around several initiatives, several funding structures, models, means and ways to finance electricity access. And what is our role? What is my role in championing energy access in Africa? These are figures that most of us will be very familiar with, so I'm not going to bore you. But if you were to look up to Northern Africa, you will see the rate of electricity access. Compared to, in some places, 14%, in sub-Saharan Africa, and in some places actually lower than 14% in Central Africa. A big landscape there. So why does that matter to people that live in that divide? If we were to have electricity access to everyone on the continent, which is a great business, by the way, then healthcare becomes almost a mundane topic. Education, women empowerment. The majority of Africans, as you know, live in sub-Saharan Africa. And the majority of these are employed by the agricultural sector, subsistence farming. And women in this community bear the brunt of productivity. You find some women with their children, buckets on their heads, going miles just to find water. And if they do find it, it's not potable water. You know, put it back on their head and walk back home. They have to get home, they have to cook, feed the family, clean the house. It's a lot of work, I tell you. So women empowerment does matter. Energy, affordable and clean energy. Instead of burning wood, biomass, burning kerosene, diesel, all of these things that destroy the ozone layer and affect the health of these wonderful women and men. Economic development. So what strategies do we think that we can put in place to enable energy access? Today, the average per capita actually is less than 150 kilowatts on average in sub-Saharan Africa. That's really, really low. That's really, really bad. So how can we responsibly create the initiatives, encourage investment into the energy sector in Africa? How can we increase access? As we know, fossil fuels still dominate the market. Kerosene, diesel, petrol, etc. But if we were to invest heavily in renewable energy solutions, which is the fastest way, by the way, that we can empower the SMEs and micro SMEs. You'll be shocked. The video that we showed earlier relates to a farm in Nigeria in a place called Ilorin. That farm hadn't had access to electricity for over 4 years. It's called Remo King. They were operating at less than 18% capacity. They took loans from banks. They can't pay because, frankly, he can't produce as much as his capacity is. And therefore, what goes in is 10 times more than what goes out. He's insolvent. And one of our subsidiary companies, just to tell you a bit of that story, goes in there called Energy First, finances that farm, puts in place about 500 kilowatt hour worth of solar system. And today, that farm has moved from less than 18% production to over 80%. It's been able to bring back over 80% of the workforce that was laid off before, and today he's been able to restructure his bad debt with his bank. Now, it took us less than 4 months to put that solar solution in place. If the government were to build a power plant, a transmission line, and distribution connectivity to that farm, it would take them more than 4 years. So why does it matter for us to have access? So we believe that the government has a role. The government can do much. The capital is not there. The needs in the country is huge. Infrastructure, education, healthcare, security, it's just endless. So we trust the government, therefore, to put in place frameworks that can enable you and I, private sector, to put our money, to put our effort, and to risk our time. And by the way, it's a very rewarding business. I've been in this business now for over 16 years. It's a tough job. You're never going to buy a private jet, but ultimately you eat very good lunch. So we believe that cost-reflective tariff is critical. We believe that ultimately the buyer will pay for the value it gets. At the end of the day, energy access is about value creation, and business is about value creation. You appropriate value you appropriate benefit for whatever value that you create. So we believe that a very robust regulatory framework that is very dynamic, that supports investment in off-grid business is critical. We think that regional cooperation could be much helpful. The principle of united we stand, divided we fall, I think applies here. And so does economies of scale. Power, in some places, we have, as an example, we're producing 84 megawatts from a clean gas power plant in Port Harcourt. With using less than 30% of that power, 70% of that power is wasted. What happens if we could take 70% of that power and take it to another country? That's over 50 megawatts. This is where regional cooperation is critical. So some of the policy changes, for example, we've mentioned here, subsidies, tax, 100% tax cuts. Why do we need to have tax holidays? Just get rid of it. When you have productivity in a business, it will employ more people, it will sell more, there'll be corporate taxes, VAT, there'll be personal tax. So why don't we just get rid of the tax 100%, import duties? So there are various initiatives that we believe that government can truly put in place to really support our sector. I won't delve into this, but I do believe that there's several ways to finance and deploy more off-grid solution. Small hydros, run of the river, off-grid solar, it's limitless. I'll give you another example of what we've done in supporting this process. We manage one of the largest residential mini-grids in Nigeria. It's called the Banana Island Residential Mini-Grid. Installed capacity of about 15 megawatt. When we took over 9 years ago, the first thing we did was to find the source of electricity that is clean, renewable, and price competitive. The second thing we did was to find ways to guarantee supply of that energy from a hydro plant directly to that residential area. The third thing we did was to ensure that the revenue circle, that circle was closed, so the customers pay for the value that they get. And so from that hydro plant to the medium voltage transmission network we had to put in place, to the revenue cycle management solution that ensures that everybody pays for whatever they use, and therefore you have a sustainable business. That virtuous circle has enabled this mini-grid to be one of the most successful on the continent. My sense is that there's a price to pay for electricity, but there's a greater price that Africa continues to pay without electricity access for more than 600 million people. So I will encourage you to look around you, connect, find ways to do business, find a patch of earth in Africa, power that community, and see how much money you can make out of it. Thank you very much.